Welcome to the June 22nd Select Board meeting. Please note that in accordance with public emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker to protect public health during the COVID-19 outbreak, this Select Board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the Select Board members are calling in via Zoom conference. This meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by the Eastern Community Access Television, Comcast 98, Verizon 23, and on ECAT's website, www.eastoncat.org. If you're watching at home and you have a question or a comment, you can email Michael Blanchard at mblanchard@easton.ma.us or pose your question on the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal. Please remember to include your name and street address for our minutes. At this time, I'd like to ask each Select Board member to state their name to ensure that we have a quorum.
Craig Barger.
Tom Broussard.
Charles King.
Mark Lamb.
And Dottie Fulginiti. Great, thank you. Our first action item is discussion and vote of a contract award for procurement of ambulance billing and collection services. We received a memo and a contract submitted by Chief Partridge explaining the recent process for requesting proposals of ambulance billing and collection services. As indicated in the memo, the recommendation is to award a 3-year contract to Pro EMS Solutions. The price proposal to be a percentage of the actual receipts delivered to the town of Easton as a result of the proposer's invoicing as follows, 4%. And Connor, did you want to, I'm trying to see who's on the call. Did you want to speak any more to that?
The finance director is on the call. She was part of the RFP committee and can speak to the details of this contract. Wendy?
Yes, I'm here. So we got 3 bids. We do this every 3 years, and we do the RFP process because it's not just about the best price. And Pro EMS offered 4%, but they also offered other things within the contract that gave us we felt the best value out of the other 2 proposers, which were New England Medical Billing and Comstar. They'll provide laptops and other services. The other bids were going to provide those services, but sometimes they were an added fee versus being all included in the price. So this is 4%. It's total. It's everything's all inclusive, and Pro EMS we've had for the last 3 years, and they've done a great job.
Terrific. Any questions from the board? No questions? I would take a motion to award the contract of procurement of ambulance billing and collection services to Pro EMS Solutions.
So moved, Craig Barger.
Second, Tom Broussard.
Craig and Tom, all in favor, starting with you, Craig?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Next, discussion and vote on allowance of town administrator to carry earned time off into fiscal year 2021. Connor, do you want me to introduce that, or do you want to?
No, that's fine. As the board is aware, by terms of my employment agreement with the town, which is a contract with you, I am not allowed to carry more than 2 weeks of vacation into a successive fiscal year. That's in part meant to encourage me to actually take that time. Because of coronavirus and the budget crisis and all that, I've obviously taken no time off in a while. And so I have more than 2 weeks on the books. And if the board is not willing to vote to let that carry over, then I will lose that time. So I'm respectfully asking that you consider doing so and letting me carry that time over.
If anyone has any comments, I'll start with you, Craig.
I think that, Connor, I am delighted to be able to give you that opportunity because you have done one heck of a job over the last 6 months, and I very much appreciate it. And I know you couldn't take vacation because of that. We wouldn't want you to take vacation. We wanted you to be there in the front and center, and so I'm very comfortable with the request.
Tom?
It's certainly something I've seen in the professional side in terms of business that experience in my company. I completely understand it and support it in this case. The only question I have is whether or not there are other people that provide service to the town, town employees that might be adversely affected that also should be considered.
That's a good question, and we have done so. We have allowed through side letters with unions. By virtue of me being a personnel director, I am able to authorize that. So we have allowed the key leadership team involved in EMA to carry their time over, and have allowed other employees the additional flexibility to carry time into next year, which I felt was proper, given that many of them agreed to wage concessions and frankly have just been working very, very hard during this time. So that as we have done so, I would not ask for something I wouldn't extend to others. Tom, that's a good point.
As expected, and I just wanted to make sure everybody else could understand that as well. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Tom. Chuck?
I am fully in favor of Connor carrying forward his well-deserved time off.
Thank you. And Mark?
You earned it. So I'm fully in favor of it.
And I am also, but I do want to stress, and I think the rest of the board will agree, that it's super important to take your time off. You know, this has been, everyone says unprecedented. Can't say that enough, that Connor and a lot of our staff have really been working 7 days a week with no time off. It's not good for anybody's physical or mental health to work that way. So vacation time and time off is really helpful to re-energize, and we care about the mental and physical health of all of our employees. So for sure, I don't have a problem with doing this, but I certainly encourage the people that have time off to take that as needed. So with that, we'll go around and do the roll call vote to allow the town administrator to carry earned time off forward for fiscal 2021.
We
Craig?
need a motion first or just the roll call?
Yeah, if you'd make the motion.
So moved.
Second, Tom Broussard.
So that's Craig and Tom. Roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Fulginiti, yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
the next item is the discussion and vote on the postponement of the town administrator's performance review.
So same general idea. My contract lays out a time frame that we all work together on for the establishment of goals and objectives, as well as your measurement of my performance in meeting those goals. It's typically after a town election, whatever the new board makeup is, we agree on a set of goals for the management of the town that is driven by the budget, obviously, because that drives our resources and what we can actually do. So because we still don't have the budget adopted, even though hopefully that is a moot point tonight, we have not had the time to do so and work on goals and objectives. And similarly, I have not had the time or ability to do my part of my own, of my end of that deal, basically, which is a self-assessment for the performance of fiscal 20, which then goes to a board that you take a couple of weeks with. So just again, in response to where all of our focus has been, which has been basically on emergency response and a budget crisis, I would respectfully ask that we just delay that until a date later this summer that Dottie and I coordinate through the normal the normal agenda setting process.
Great. Craig, any comments?
No, I think that it's a very reasonable request.
Tom?
Same.
Chuck?
It's a wise idea.
And Mark?
Great.
Okay, I take a motion to postpone the town administrator's performance review.
So moved. Craig Barger.
Second, Broussard.
Craig and Tom, and starting with you, Craig.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Thank you, everyone. And number 5 is the fiscal 2021 budget change memo number 5. Connor?
Thank you, Dottie. So I don't have a full presentation for this meeting. I will have one at town meeting in a couple of hours. That'll go into detail in the memo that I've provided you. That memo is available online. It's been distributed to all department heads, board members. It's available on our website for the public. The budget is finally balanced. I know it is the day of town meeting, but we've had some relatively extraordinary circumstances to contend with. A week ago, the deficit was about 200,000. 5 weeks ago, the deficit was 2.5 million. And we've all basically worked around the clock to address that in those 5 weeks. And what has changed between last week and now is that the schools have access to a special education reserve fund, that those funds can be used for significant and unplanned special education costs, which are, as this board is aware, a significant operating cost for the school district in Easton and in most communities. The school committee did vote to use $125,000 of that $200,000 balance. And the remainder of that gap, which is about $80,000 and change, has been put forward using free cash, which is slightly above the 50% of our available free cash that your policies lay out as our goal. But your policies also do allow for reasonable flexibility under extraordinary circumstances like this one. Specifically, touching on that, using additional reserves is appropriate to help the town address cyclical declines in revenue or unforeseen economic recessions that are outside of our control. And the current circumstances, in my opinion, meet that. And the alternative of additional reductions in operating budgets for what are already regressive town and school department budgets was, in my professional opinion, worse for the community. So we are here, it's balanced. We're looking at a total increase, all told, at about 1.33% of available revenue. Expenses are now the same, they match. And, it's been a difficult process, but as regressive and as challenging as it's been, I still believe that this is the best path forward and the best level of service that we can provide, given the incredible damage we're expecting to our revenue next year. And I would ask that you support the budget as proposed and recommended to town meeting.
Okay.
And I'm happy to answer any particulars about it as well.
Craig, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Connor and Wendy and all of the town department heads for extraordinary work on this budget. And we all recognize how difficult a process this was, and in some cases painful. But it is what needs to be done, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Tom?
Also equally express appreciation for all the effort that went forth. I think that, as we all know, there's more to come on this. I think this is the first chapter of a long financial discussion we're going to have as we begin to navigate through the real full effects of this crisis. Hopefully it doesn't get worse, but I think it actually will be more challenging. The only question I have, Connor, is how much remains in that SPED account?
75,000.
Got it. So they took a majority of that.
Correct. And it is, as our general reserves are, this is one-time money, right? And I know we've spent a lot of time focusing on that from a strategic perspective over the years, and thankfully did the work that we did so that our reserves are in a better place now than they were a few years ago. Not where we wanted them to be before something like this happened, but certainly better. So all told, we're looking at about 1.6 million in one-time money being used, which is an increase of about 60% from last year. And it's still just shy of 1/3 of our total reserve capabilities.
Great point on the one-time use. I think that's something we have to keep in mind as well as we go through the year.
Yeah, no, this is not a structural solve. This does not fix the long-term problem, right? We've had a structural revenue deficit for ages, since at least 2008, and it's been a challenge for us to grapple with every single year, even when the economy was generally doing good, just because of our limits on state revenue and limit on taxation under the law. And unfortunately, that problem that has been with us and has been hard enough, frankly, and challenging enough and in the way enough for us to deliver the services we ought to, is going to be worsened by this.
Thanks, Connor.
Chuck?
I echo what Tom and Craig have just said, and a big thank you to Connor and his staff.
Mark?
Thank you, Connor and your staff. Job well done. I have no questions.
And I agree, we all know that this is tough work, and having to try to satisfy every possible scenario that we can and really make decisions in the best interest of the whole community. It's really tough. So I like my colleagues, I really want to thank Connor, you and your staff, Wendy, for putting this together. So do you want us to vote on the operating budget part of the warrant article first, or do you want to go on to item number 6 first?
No, if the board is willing, I would ask that you take a motion, or I suppose you're right, Dottie, it's a different item. We could move on to the annual town meeting warrant. I believe the only item left there for the board to take in a position on is the operating budget. Let me just double check quickly. Wendy, do we know or Dottie, the board voted to recommend the supplemental 20 budget last week. Is that right? That's the trash and town clerk, Article 4.
Yes, I believe we did that last week.
Yeah, I think we did.
I think you did as well, but it has been a few weeks. Wendy, do you have notes from that meeting?
It should be in the warrant, right?
I don't have anything in writing, but that, to my recollection, that was voted.
One moment.
It was including the $50,000 for recycling, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
We definitely voted on that.
Yeah, you did. Okay, that's fine. That's not in a printed warrant, but that's okay. So then the only, you'll still be able to make that recommendation on the floor tonight. I think it's in your briefing book. The only article left is the operating budget. So I would ask that the board take a vote on that. I would request that you recommend it.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to recommend the fiscal year 2021 operating budget?
Did
Which
we
one?
already vote to include it?
Yes, we did.
Voted to include, but we didn't vote to recommend.
We didn't recommend, yes.
That's Article 7.
I'll second that motion to recommend.
Who made the motion? Craig?
I did, Craig, yeah.
Craig, then Tom, and a roll call vote?
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
And Fulginiti, yes.
Thank you.
Do we need to talk about anything else on the warrant, or we're good to go on that? We have a briefing book so everyone knows which items they'll be speaking to.
And Dottie, that would be printed out for us. when we
Yes.
can get
Select board
to,
will have hard
Stone
copies
Hill.
of the briefing book tonight, as well as the Article 7 budget handout, which reflects the budget that was just voted on. That will be available not only to the board, but to all voters tonight. They'll have a hard copy of the warrant, the final budget, and the board will have the briefing book with the recommendations that you've made thus far, along with the proposed motions that
Okay,
reflect your recommendations.
terrific. Connor, do you have any town administrator notes of contract awards or anything pursuant to the select board's resolution?
I do not. I haven't been executing any contracts under that because we've been meeting every week.
Okay. Well, we all know the governor made another change to start phase 2, section 2. So this week they are looking at some more changes, different openings, personal products like nail salons and massage and things like that, as well as opening some of the indoor dining. So every time these changes happen, the town has to react to them and quickly. So I just want to say thank you again for the continued focus on that from all our department staff that are involved in what seem like simple changes, but really are a lot of work for us. So thank you very much, Connor, for making, and Michael for making that go very smoothly. All right. With that, I will, unless any select board members have any notes they wanted to add,
No,
then I will take a motion to adjourn and see you in a little while at town meeting.
So moved, Craig Barger.
second, Broussard.
Craig and Tom, and starting with you, Craig.
Barger, yes?
Broussard, yes.
King, yes?
Lamb, yes.
Fulginiti, yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
soon.
All right, we'll see you at 7.